Our 44th Annual Alumni Convention. It is wonderful to see each of you this morning. I am presiding over this particular meeting. Next, we will have our order of the day from our convention chair, Christopher Sanders.
Who that? We're going to start this off one more time. Who that? Who that? Who that? That's what I'm talking about. Carry on. Listen, the order of the day is that today is what? University Day. Yes. One more time. Today is what? University Day. That's what I'm talking about. So, with things proceeding up forward, today is University Day. We'll hear from the university this morning. We have a great speaker scheduled for us at lunchtime at 12. We also have a number of different workshops scheduled in the afternoon, starting from 2 o'clock and going past 6 o'clock. I would highly encourage you to participate in those workshops. It's for the benefit of the good, which is all of us. This evening, we also have a jam-packed entertainment. And so, with that being said, that's the order of the day.
My next task is to introduce our university president. Ruth J. Simmons. Yes, it's time for you. Became the 8th president of Prairie View A&M University on December 4th, 2017. In only 1 year, she has brought a notoriety to our university of which we have never seen the likes of. She's the first woman to be selected to serve as president of Prairie View. The Houston Chronicles says Simmons has eye-popping goals for the full 42nd-year-old institution. She believes Prairie View can be among the best smaller universities in the country and the best historically black college. Ladies and gentlemen, the president of Prairie View A&M University, Ruth J. Simmons.
How many of you were the beneficiary of my coming around and telling you it was time to come up? Okay, so they're still down there, I guess. I was trying to round up people down there in the dining room. Let me say that we're very pleased to be here to provide you with updates on a number of matters of importance for the future of the university. Can you all hear me? No. Sorry? How's that?
Yeah.
That better? Okay, I'll try to be mindful of that. It has been a busy year, to say the least, filled with many surprises. While we certainly have had some challenges, in the main, this continues to be a clear point of inflection in the history of the university. And we're working hard to mine the university's tremendous promise and leverage its many assets to enhance the profile and stature of the university. You are aware, I hope, of many of the high points of the year. And obviously, I can't list them all. You remember the honor given to the Marching Storm to lead off the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. What a privilege that was. The appointment of Prairie View student Irvin Bryant to the Board of Regents of the A&M system. First time Prairie View has had anybody on the Board of Regents. Just slip in that the girls softball team won the SWAC championship.
All right.
Our athletes competed valiantly across the spectrum of sports. I'm very excited to say we were able to attract a number of outstanding leaders to the campus, including, finally, Gerard D'Souza as Dean of the College of Agriculture and Human Sciences. D'Souza is a very distinguished agricultural economist who impressed the campus and search committee with his background and his student focus. I'm especially grateful to alumnus Oscar Taylor for playing a pivotal role in that search. Oscar was just wonderful, as you would expect an alumnus to be. He had my ear, and he was constantly advising me about how things were going and what he thought of the candidates, and I found it invaluable Oscar noted when we appointed D'Souza that we had struck pure gold. Timothy Sams accepted our offer to join Prairie View as Vice President for Student Affairs. Tim has also had a stellar career. He served as Dean at Swarthmore, Williams, Rensselaer Tech, and most recently, he was Executive Vice President at Morehouse. He is quite a talent with wide-ranging knowledge and experience and a fierce commitment to student success. Carmi Williams joined us in January as the new Vice President for Development. Carmi's actually here. Carmi? She has begun to reorganize our fundraising efforts, shoring up stewardship, gift accounting, major gifts, and researching prospects. Now, listen, all of you who make donations to different organizations are very much aware of the way in which fundraising operations ought to work. You send in your check, you expect to hear back right away how delighted everybody is that you gave your money. You expect to hear later what they did with the money. You expect regular reports, that's stewardship, and you expect people to come back to you and ask you for a bigger gift next time, right? We're not doing that. And so I just want to get all of you ready. The Army is reorganizing everything, and you will be hearing from us in the way that you should. There's a reason that Carmi was my very first hire, and that is we have an urgent need for increased annual and capital giving. This will be a high priority going forward. Our students are amazing, but they lack enough financial aid to go through college the way to support our students at a much better level within the senior ranks of the university. So we're delighted to welcome alumnus Billy. Billy will serve on the President's Executive Committee and be involved in university strategy and decision-making at the highest level. He will oversee and serve as liaison on matters of concern to alumni, and we expect him to be a strong advocate for the alumni role at Prairie View. We finally have a new Q&A. I can talk a little bit about the search process and what I think has been going on, but keep in mind that in the directional entities from when you were in school. You know what I mean by that? Availability of information. And so increasingly you'll see an institution, much like others around in this space, to learn the tools for research and data gathering, and encourage them to be in conversations with other students about intellectual matters. Our engineering dean's search is still underway, and without giving too much away, I can tell you we're very close to a stellar appointment there. We may be in a position to announce an appointment within a matter of weeks. Now, recruiting outstanding people to Prairie View is absolutely my highest priority. Whether faculty or staff, our future depends on the profile of our employees. Mediocre hires yield mediocre to disastrous results. While reputations are built over time, they can be harmed over time by consistently poor hiring decisions. But hiring is not just about finding people from outside the university. It's also about identifying the right positions for the tremendously talented people currently at the university. I believe firmly that it would be a serious mistake to focus purely on bringing people from the outside. For example, Carol Campbell has been advanced to Director of University Events because her know-how and talent when it comes to events is frankly at a national level. Harvard University recently sought her help in organizing the inauguration of its new president. And of course, we have to hear about this every day. Well, Harvard called me, and they want me to do this, and Harvard is asking me that. Carol, that's enough, really, we know, where's Carol? Is she outside? She's back. Okay. But this is truly a high honor and an indication of how fortunate we are to have her directing the quality of our events. Yolanda Bevel has joined my office as assistant to the president. You all know Yolanda from her work, leading media relations and marketing. I can tell you that many universities in Texas, presidents of universities in Texas, are perplexed by and envious of the national attention Prairie View receives as a consequence of Yolanda's efforts. An attorney, Yolanda will have a broad policy and strategy role in the president's office, and of course you know Yolanda is here as well. She and Carol, I have to say, they are tremendously talented, tremendously. The efforts to build the bench will continue into next year. As you all know, Ashley Robinson left Prairie View, and we've begun a search for a director of athletics. There is considerable interest in this position. We are on workday, and I was just complaining on Wednesday that my inbox is full of applications for this position. So it turns out for every position that we advertise now, we have intense interest, a lot of applications coming into my inbox. There is, of course, a search committee to consider all of these applications. And our search committee is led by Corey Bradford and is made up of a diversity of athletics stakeholders. They will submit a recommendation to me. In the meantime, Fred Washington, who is here today, I saw him early, there's Fred, is serving as interim director of athletics, and he will do so until the position is filled. We'll launch a search for our next provost in late fall. Now, the provost, a lot of people don't know what a provost actually does, Emma. It's a very traditional position in university life, but outside of universities, many people ask, well, what is a provost? It's a military term, really. What does a provost do? Well, we'll be looking for someone who has the capacity to lead curricular reform, to execute strategy, and oversee the overall quality of faculty hiring, an area of particular need at Prairie View. My preference will be for an internal person, but I have to tell you the bar is high in selecting this person. The provost is probably the single most important position in the university. I mean that very seriously. It's also the most difficult position in the university. And that is why often presidents come from the ranks of provosts. Both of my former provosts are now presidents. One is president of the University of Chicago. One is president of the University of Michigan. Provosts are in preparation to lead the entire university. So it's a pretty important position, but there are people, of course, at the university who are no doubt capable of playing that role. And most importantly, we need a provost who is in training to be president of Prairie View at some point. But in truth, my intention is that we will just have the best administrative team among HBCUs. And now that we've made some appointments, I can see that this goal is entirely achievable if we adhere to the practice of seeking the best candidates available whenever a position is open. This is not about hiring friends. It is about a competitive process to find the best talent available to us. When I first became a president, I went to the president of Princeton, because I was in Princeton at the time. He had been president of Princeton. I asked him for advice about what I should do as president for the first time. And he said, Ruth, there's only one thing for you to do as president. If you do it well, you'll succeed. If you do it poorly, you will not. Every time you have the opportunity to hire the best person you can find. If you do that, you'll be fine. It turns out that was the best advice I think I've ever been given. Hire the best people. Because a president, however good they are, cannot reach down into financial aid and solve financial aid. They cannot reach down into myriad areas of the university and solve for everything. They have to have a team capable of doing that. Now, what would it mean for Prairie View if we had the best team in HBCUs? Now, let me tell you this story. I went a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago now. The board of Spelman College asked me to come to their retreat. And for some reason, they were having it in Philadelphia. They wanted me to talk with them about faculty quality. What should they do as a board to make sure that Spelman continues to be a top college? I have to say that being back in that room, having been at Spelman and having served with Janetta Cole there, I was reflecting on why is it that a lot of people think Spelman is in fact the best run HBCU. Why is that? Well, I wasn't going to say it's because it's women. So you guys can relax. I'm not saying that. But I ran into the CFO there. The CFO at Spelman, Danny, was there when I was at Spelman. He has been there 40 years. And he has been an incredible force at that college. The consistency, constantly, it's privilege to find out what they need to do as a board in order to make good decisions for the college. It is well run because people care about their mission, but they care about their individual and collective responsibility to do the best for the institution. And then there's a very active alumni body at Spelman. Those women stay involved. They push their college to be the best, and they have for decades. So these things work together, but what would it mean if Prairie View could have a team consistently over time that performs at the top level? That would mean greater academic credibility. I don't know, I know it must hurt you the way it hurts me to go out into the community and to hear people say, Prairie View is not well run. And let's be on constant problems in financial aid and admission, can't get things done, things are very slow, why is it I can't get invoices paid? We hear this all the time, okay? It's not good for the profile of our university. When people roll their eyes, we begin to talk about Prairie View. I won't even start to talk about what legislators and A&M people do when you talk about Prairie View. So it will mean greater credibility for our university if we have a team that is excellent across the board. It will give us management expertise to solve long-standing problems in consistent execution. It will improve our responsiveness and customer service. It will give greater confidence among prospective donors that their contributions will be well placed. Now, I don't know about you, but when I decide whether or not I'm going to give money, you know what I think about? I don't just think about whether it's a worthy cause. I think about whether the people running the place are capable of making good decisions in the way they allocate the funds. And if they're not, I'm not giving them. It's just that simple. You have to have confidence in the ability of the institution to deliver. And I'll tell you this, I gave a gift once to an institution that I would love to support because I had emotional ties to it. But they lost the gift. Since that day, I have never given another dime to that institution, because I am not persuaded to this day that they're capable of not losing another. Better overall performance will mean inevitably greater student persistence and success, enhanced industry and educational alliances. It is, I was talking to someone earlier from Northrop. The engineering companies on our doorstep every day, phenomenal. If you had a blue ribbon list of industries not industries, but companies you wanted to be associated with, this would be the list. Google, Intel, every company you can imagine, okay? So that's not our problem, attracting the interest. Our problem is deliberate. In a way, make no mistake, Prairie View has some issues that need to be addressed quickly and definitively. Our reputation, both academically and administratively, has suffered some blows over time, and we'll need to work hard to rebuild confidence in our ability to deliver on our mission. Most of the responsibility for doing that will rest on the ability of this leadership team to see what needs to be done and to do it. But it will also depend on the quality. Let me know, raise your hand if I'm talking too long. Okay. It will also depend on the quality of our faculty and the quality and relevance of our curriculum. And our strength in this area has eroded significantly. Through inattention, we have inherited an upside-down faculty. Let me tell you what I mean by that. The majority of the faculty at Prairie View today are not tenure track. I'll say it again. The majority of the faculty at Prairie View today are not tenure track. Now, why is that so important? Do you know there are universities that have been in existence for 800 years? And by and large, universities survive for an enormously long period of time. Very hard to put a university out of business. Some of them should be out of business, but there are stakeholders who learn about what they're supposed to do, who learn about how a university is made good and greater, and they are there to protect the university from efforts to erode its excellence. That's the faculty. The faculty are most knowledgeable about that. They care most about it. They must be top faculty in order to know what's happening in cybersecurity today. Fields change. The faculty have to be good enough to keep up with those changes and to make sure our students are being exposed to the latest in the field. Otherwise, when they go out into the workplace, nobody will want them. Okay? So that's what our faculty do. But how do you make sure they're stakeholders? You bring them in as junior faculty, you mentor them, you help them grow and get better and be recognized in their profession. They become associate professors, you reward them for being associate professors. Then they become full professors, you reward them for being full professors. And then they lead, as Emma can tell you, they lead our academic programs. They have to be deans, they have to be department chairs, they have to teach, they have to love our students. They have to promote our students. But if you have faculty who are not stakeholders because you have brought them in, you've kept them in place year after year after year with very minimal pay and no opportunity for advancement, what are they to do for our students? Some are immensely dedicated, and I look and I think, why are you still here? with a university that's treating you so badly? Why are you here? So here's what we started to do in order to try to right-size the faculty. First of all, we have allocated 24 positions this year for the tenure track line. Okay? 24 positions. We recognize that many have served for long years without ever being promoted. An unjust practice discredits us in so many different ways. For someone who's given their life to the university and they've never gotten anything for it, so we are trying to move people through the pipeline so that they have a chance to become full professors. Do you know what the most important thing to a professor is? If you've taken on that profession, do you know the most important thing to you? That you not retire as an associate professor or an assistant professor. That's the most important thing to a faculty member. And yet many of our faculty get stalled at the associate level because we haven't put enough investment into their careers to get them through the pipeline. So we have a program that we have launched to do that. We have an aggressive faculty development initiative. We've taken $2 million to set it up. Oddly enough, out of the blue, we got a call from the Carnegie Foundation asking if we'd like some help with our faculty development. So we've been working with Spelman and Morehouse on a faculty development project that will be a model for HBCUs that Carnegie wants to fund with Prairie View in the lead. We're giving greater support for faculty governance. Now, Billy, let me say this. For a long time in HBCUs, we thought the proper model was to dictate to everybody the way things should be. And that goes against what the prevailing model in universities actually is. So, there is something called faculty governance that is very important to attract faculty and to keep faculty engaged. And so we've been working with the Faculty Senate on getting them to be more aggressive in bringing suggestions forward, in seeking out opinions from the faculty, and so forth. We have to have shared governance. There is no way to run a credible university without it. So sharing in governance is very important, and we are well on the way to doing that. When I went to the faculty, I said, well, you know, you're not doing anything as an executive committee. What are you bringing about? So they said, well, you know, that's the way I said, well, go to another university, go to several universities and talk to faculty there about how faculties are run. And secondly, go to the AAUP, the organization that represents you as faculty, and ask them what you're supposed to be doing as faculty. So they did all of that, and they came up with a beautiful set of bylaws, and they have completely redone their system, and they've started for the first time to have faculty meetings across the board, where faculty across the university can come together to offer their thoughts about how the university is functioning. We have a project to improve faculty salaries. Now, typically, if you get promoted and you get tenure, that is the biggest event. Wouldn't you say, Emma? The biggest event in a faculty member's life is getting tenure. Okay? So what do you think you should get for that in compensation? Yeah, well, I mean, we were giving a pittance to people when they got promoted. I think on the thought that we didn't have the money. Not true. We just need to take it from someplace else, because this is important. So we have elevated, I don't think the faculty know this yet because it won't show up until they get their letters, but we're giving very substantial sums for promotion.
Great.
And then associate professors see that they can get a lot more money by moving on to full professor. They're going to get busy and work to become full professors. So we're doing that. We're improving faculty salaries. We have our salaries are too low. So when I started asking why are the salaries so low, I was told that was just the way that it is. But it is self-inflicted. It's not mandated by anybody. We made those decisions. We made those choices. And so I'm looking at faculty salaries one by one. I'm looking for outliers. I'm looking to see whether or not women are being, yes, women are being paid fairly in comparison with men. I'm looking to see whether or not the salary matches up with the prominence of the faculty member. We're going line by line and adjusting salaries. I already mentioned that we have an increase in tenure track positions. My goal is to make sure that after this period, we have a faculty that looks like a university faculty. And, we have our decennial reaccreditation visit coming up in 2020. I'm terrified that when they look at the composition of our faculty, that we're going to be cited for that. Because we just don't have enough stakeholders on our faculty. We have a focus on departments and programs that are failing and in jeopardy of being cited by accreditors. I was just telling Emma at breakfast, we're going to have to pull her back in to help with one particular department that is in. You know that word indefatigable? Yeah. When I first started, Emma came to me and we talked about some things that, who knows more than Emma? Nobody, exactly. Nobody. She knows everybody. She knows everything. And so she's been a great mentor to me, and I'm so thankful for that. We also have an urgent need for more rigorous programs of study for our students. The incidence of students graduating with inadequate skills is a grave concern. So please don't tell anybody this because it hasn't been announced, but we will be creating a Dean of Undergraduate Studies position to focus on this particular issue. We continue to have great need of financial aid. Our students encounter monumental problems in funding their education for 4 years. There are strategies we need to deploy to move them through faster and at lower cost so that they are neither saddled with debt nor forced to drop out because college has become unaffordable. You all know that our students are phenomenal. We're working hard to make sure they are groomed for national awards. We have a couple of students that I know are ready for Rhodes scholarships. I chair the Northeast Region Rhodes competition. It's the competition that MIT and Harvard and Yale and all of those universities or Cornell are in. So I've seen those students over the years when I was chairing the Rhodes competition. I can tell you that we have students that are ready to compete with those students for the most prestigious awards. We need to get them out there, we need to measure them, we need to get them out there, and we need to see them start to win those awards. Because how do people assess universities? They assess universities on the basis of what your students, the prizes your students are winning, the prizes your faculty are winning. That's the way people assess us. I answered the phone one day, happened to be the president of Phi Beta Kappa. Okay. Didn't know what he wanted. So he said, Ruth, I was wondering whether or not we should start working to get a Phi Beta Kappa chapter at Prairie View. Okay, if we can accomplish that, so that our students are eligible for Phi Beta Kappa, there's nothing wrong with that. We're launching an Afro-American Studies effort this year. That we hope will be a springboard for getting students more experience in writing, in argumentation, and analytical thinking, the cornerstone skills of leadership, no matter what fields they're going to pursue. And I will tell you that here too, we had a bit of luck because the head of a program at the Mellon Foundation called out of the blue one day and said, we want to give you money. And what we've done is we've written a proposal for them to facilitate the start of Afro-American Studies at Prairie View, and they are meeting in a few weeks, and we already know we're getting the money. So that's a big win for us, to have that kind of support for this effort. And of course, there are numerous efforts underway to add to our campus infrastructure. I can't cite them all. We have a new fabrication center in architecture that will be, Carol, when is the groundbreaking? No, not the groundbreaking, but the dedication? To be decided. To be decided, okay. To be decided, okay. To be decided. We have a new welcome center. Now, I hate to talk out of turn, but I don't know why we built a welcome center. Can't we just welcome people? I mean, when they come, but anyway, it's built. And so Carol, when is that going to be opened? You see what I mean? Okay. We have, Carol has reviewed the final plans for the President's House and has given the okay, I think, for the plan, and they are going to start construction in August. The house will be available by the time of commencement next year. They're supposed to be ready by March. But Carol insisted on a large venue in the house so that there would be enough room for you. So I want to make sure that next year you should hold your convention there. There will be enough room, thanks to Carol, in the common area to have 200 or 300 people. We'll have grounds for the students to have ice cream socials and picnics and so forth. If you are a very good alumnus, you might even get to stay there in the guest suite. We'll have to see. Okay. So anyway, it is. I always say when we were doing that, I said, well, I don't know that this is useful for me. But I do know that it's going to be useful for future presidents of Prairie View, because to have a president on campus where you can welcome people and where you can host events on game days and so forth, it's absolutely essential. And so I'm very delighted that the system itself insisted on this and insisted on paying for it. So, we are working on the next generation of student housing. We are desperately in need of additional student housing. It is one of the most serious problems. Fred, I don't know, Fred, are you talking about that at all?
I wasn't scheduled to.
Oh, well, come on up here now. Okay, give us the story of how things look for the fall and with the students' housing.
Well, we announced this week that. Is that better?
Pick it up, just take it.
Yeah. Good afternoon, or good morning.
Good morning.
Where's the Chris? supposed to say Panther Pride? But, good morning. Right now, we announced this week that we're full on campus for our returning student and our freshman housing. Freshman housing filled the first week of July. What we have tried to do is enter into partnerships with all of the local properties that provide a service that we feel is appropriate for our students in terms of quality and safety. We anticipate one developer will have an additional 600 beds in the city of Prairie View that are available to our students. They are leasing now. They are not full. Are on our shuttle services, so students will have transportation to and from campus. Prairie View is not accurate. We are out of housing on campus. We only have 4,300 beds, and that is the maximum that we can hold. Partnerships, and there's still spaces available very close to the campus.
There may be questions later, so you can cover that. But it's very painful because we're talking to parents all the time, and everybody is distressed not to be on the campus. They not only want housing, but they want to be right there on the notion of the Prairie View experience, that people want that full experience. And so, as soon as we can get this next round of housing done, it will be a blessing as a proposal because we have some fields in engineering that are just, what would they say, killing it. Okay, so they're doing such good work. Such as you know, we've been a research aspiring institution, and our effort is to build our research profile. And so that's all about space, it's all about postdocs, it's all about research assistants, all of those things that are required for a robust research agenda. We decided that we're going to use the elementary school on campus to house a museum for the Texas Institute for the Preservation of History and Culture. We want to preserve that building, and we believe that having it in that location will attract visitors to campus, to the museum, and in it we get to tell the story of this school on campus as well. We're doing technology and classroom enhancements across the campus. That's begun Yolanda this summer. It has begun, and hopefully will be done by the fall. And we need that. Now, it's a question if you have a program on campus when you get up in a room whether or not you're going to be able to hear from the microphone, or whether the technology is going to work. As you know, technology is like that. You've got to constantly renew it. You don't just plant it there for 20 years and say, well, it's done. So we are going to get that on a rotation where we go in and upgrade on a regular rotation. So these are all signs of a complex, thriving enterprise. Those who invested so much over the decades in making this university what it is have given generations of students opportunity to continue that work with a high level of focus and commitment. So the generation. So thank you very much. And am I to take questions? Okay, and I'll be happy to take your questions.
I think I'm supposed to go back, but I'm close enough. Thank you. I always have questions.
Oh, good.
I noticed you've been, I'm with the JSC chapter, and you did videos.
Yes.
I had to use it because my niece called me frank about the fact that her nephew was not, and young kids do this. Her nephew was not going to graduate because he was with the ROTC, and they ran into problems. And I noticed during the graduation, because we made sure we went to the graduation, that several students left in our new stadium. In the past, it had been inside the Baby Dome, so with multiple sessions. Are we going to be in a conditioned facility or another football field?
For graduation?
Yeah.
In
I
what?
mean, have we outgrown The baby dome, or just that it was under
You
construction?
can only use the baby dome for mid-year and summer because it is too small for the May commencement.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, May commencement, so that's why we're outside?
Yeah.
And the reason why I said that, we sat through the hot sun, because there were all seats available, and watched those students get their degree
Yes.
and walk off.
Yes.
And I think that was very bad. I'd never seen that before at a graduation when I was the president. You know, and that was kind of bad with what was going on. And the only one that returned back was like the professor. I had to use the interim provost to go forward. And he actually did change the deadline, but hopefully we wouldn't have to do this in the future. Because we made that student go back, because he made a mistake of passing by his mother when he was getting ready to leave the house. So.
Yes, okay. So, how many of you heard the comment?
All I was trying to say, I'm too long-winded, that's all I.
No, it's not that, it's the microphone. Come. No, come up here and use this one.
Yeah.
Well, you might have a better one.
Just up here for a few minutes. All right. My question right here is that, and I want to be short because of the fact that the interim provost, he says, going to be the next person.
No, not him, but in general, proposals.
And general provost is, okay. Well, good.
Speak into the mic.
I personally had to use your interim provost,
Yes.
and so the decision on the provost, is that something you're gonna make or the board read?
Oh, no, I heard that.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. I want to say that thus far, what I see, with the changes, things are gonna happen. It's our diversity as HCBCU going up without. And where are we at with the diversity? Somebody.
Where are we with, that's really not the question you asked. Okay, but where are we with the diversity numbers? Not sure exactly what element of that you mean, but let me just say a word about it. I was very surprised at commencement to see the students walk by. Most people probably don't know that Prairie View is as diverse in its student body as it actually is. The question that people often ask is, where are the African American students? Because there is great demand, especially in some fields, for what Prairie View offers. And because there is such great demand, those students are going to apply to Prairie View. In a legal sense, we don't have latitude to turn people down if they apply and if they're qualified. And so over time, we're going to have to work harder to make sure our African American students apply in a timely way and get in because they can no longer take it for granted that they can wait until the very last moment to apply. We are inundated with applications, for example, this year, and we had to cut off applications early because of it. African, Middle Eastern students, for example, coming through. Now, I think you know that's a national problem, that in general, in every university in the country, this is an issue, because so few American students now are willing to do the prerequisites for engineering. They don't have the math, they don't have the chemistry, the physics, and so forth, and they don't want to be bothered with it. And so, so often, go to Brown and look for engineering, and you're going to see that the composition of those student bodies is really diverse because of that. So, what can we do to get our African American students the prerequisites for these fields? I remember I had a thrilling experience on Wednesday. A gentleman came to see me to talk about some internships. And he happened to be the son of a man who taught me math at Texas Southern when I was a kid. And in those days, they had summer programs to get students interested in mathematics and to give them extra instruction in math. I think we need to do lots of programs like that to bring students in and to get them the prerequisites needed so they have a chance of getting into these fields and staying into these fields. My answer is we're going to have to do a lot of work to make sure that we can retain our students and our identity as a university. Okay?
I think I was supposed to hold off question to that.
Okay. Let's see. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Any other questions? Hold on,
Hi, I'm Pam Hodge from the Washington DC chapter.
Hi,
We're
Pam.
glad to have an intern on Capitol Hill. But my question is about student enrollment. At one point, university had, I believe, a 12,000 student target in order to pay the bills. What's the target student enrollment now?
Well, that target is not ours. Keep in mind that we operate under the Texas Authority, which mandates for each of us state institutions, they mandate what our goals should be. And Texas has a plan underway to make sure that every qualified student in Texas, are you coming in here late? Hi. How are you? You didn't tell me you were going to be here because I wouldn't have tried to come up from San Diego if I had known you were going to be here. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. But for every available university has a mandate to grow to a certain level. Now, this is a serious problem for us because we do not have capacity for 12,000 students. We don't have capacity on the faculty. We don't have capacity in housing. We don't have capacity in financial aid, and so forth. So one of the things that we're saying to the system and to the state is that we really can't follow that schedule because we don't have the capacity for it unless they dramatically increase the resources available to us. And so that will be part of our budget hearings this year, is to talk about how we can be realistic in providing a way to grow to 12,000. But there's no question that the students are there, and they will come. They'll be coming. But if we are forced to admit them, we will have a serious problem if we have to do it before we're ready for it.
So are you requesting the resources to
Yes.
begin to ramp up faculty and all the other resources?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just one more reminder, please have your cell phones on vibrate, please.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mark Falls, Johnson Space Center chapter. Also from that other ward that you like. Quick question. So I know you're setting up a tenured professor program. My question is, do you think, because I'm hearing complaints from kids that they have to overcome a barrier language to understand, and I know you're setting up these tenured professor programs. What is your take, if they don't speak great English? Do you have a concern about that as you move forward?
Well, as you know, this is a very serious question across the country. Okay, we have the same problem at Brown, the same problem with Princeton, and here's what the problem is. In particular areas of expertise, there just are not enough native speakers to staff all of these universities. There just aren't. And so, if you want to offer big data or cybersecurity, more than likely, you're going to have a non-native person teaching it. So, what have universities done recently to deal with that issue? They've done a number of things. First, they have faculty development for those faculty to help them communicate better with students, okay? Secondly, they often have help in the classroom to facilitate the teaching when the students don't understand what's being said. But by and large, in the hiring process, when you're interviewing someone, there has to be a baseline that you consider in terms of whether or not you can understand them well enough for them to teach your students. So it happens at the hiring level. And then beyond the hiring level, you have to have a training program to help them figure out how to teach. I will tell you that one of our most outstanding faculty in engineering is winning everything, left and right, okay? If you were sitting and talking to him, you'd be leaning forward trying to understand what he is saying, okay? But he is, for our students to have the privilege of working with him, every single one of the people, the students who work with him, they go off and they get fantastic jobs, okay? So it is, as with most things, you know, we have a balance that we are trying to strike. The most important thing to me, bar none, and you know, I'm a linguist, language is my thing, okay? And I happen to have the experience that just because people don't talk the way we think they should doesn't mean they aren't the smartest person in the room. So my thing is, I'm not prepared to cede to anyone the assertion that the best people ought to teach our students. Students, if it is not as good as it should be. And I don't care. I don't care how displeased people can be about it. I don't care about any of that because at the end of the day, we exist to educate a very select group of students. And they are precious to us. They are precious to this country. They are precious to the world. And they need to be prepared. So my bottom line is, yeah, let's hire. Let's do our very best in hiring. Let's get people who have facility, not only with language, but facility in teaching. Because just because you can speak doesn't mean you can teach. We got a lot of those. No, not a lot. We have a few people who speak beautifully, but the students tell me they can't learn anything. So you have to be very judicious when you're hiring. As I go back to hiring, what I say about hiring, it is the single most important thing we have to do. High standards, very high standards, and the highest standards has to be applied to the person who's going to stand in front of our students. That's the way I feel. So yes, the language issue is a big issue. It's come up this year, in particular for me, because, you know, when I'm hiring, let me just say flatly what I'm trying to do in hiring. We have a search committee, we have input from the community, but when those recommendations come to me, if they don't smell right, I'm not doing it, okay? And so we have a process that is very strong for people saying whether or not people can communicate well. So we had a good example this year because we had a candidate for a position who was, I thought, the best person for the position. But he couldn't talk. Nobody could understand what he was saying. And so we had to make the decision that that wasn't the right call because he couldn't talk, you know? So sometimes you have to make those decisions. But by and large, there's a balance that I think you're trying to achieve. Yes, ma'am.
Listen, we have 3 questions in the back. I'm gonna start with Mr. Blewett. I'm gonna say it one more time. Who that? No. Who that?
President Simmons,
Yes.
I'm Calvin Blewett. I have a kind of a different question. My question is, how can alumni help you achieve your objectives?
Thank you. First, let me say that I do not know a single, not a single university that is a top-ranked university that does not have a very aggressive alumni body. Not a single one. Involvement is the most important thing. Alumni keep a place honest with that involvement. But that involvement has to be about the future of the university. It's not about doodads. It's not about curlicues. It's about asking the tough questions. How good is this department? When I was here, this is what it was like. Now I'm hearing that it's not very good. What are you doing to correct it? A university that does not want alumni involvement at that level is a university that is going down. That's a guarantee. A guarantee. So first and foremost, being in a position, I talked about Oscar during the search. I mean, it was a godsend to have him on the committee as an alumnus of that field, saying, this is what I think, and doing it candidly. Just as it has been a godsend to have Roy Perry and other engineering alums on the committee in the search for the Dean of Engineering. Okay, but that's not the end of it. It's not just search committees. I don't know why we don't have, we have some visiting committees, but we don't have enough. So for example, I was called one year by Harvard, and I was asked to lead a team to come to Harvard to examine why the Afro-American Studies program there had tanked. And we went in, we did a thorough investigation, we interviewed students, we interviewed faculty outside the department, we wrote a report, and we said, okay, here's what you've got to do in order to correct this. Those were alumni doing that. And that's the way it is most places in the country for the top places. So we have a wealth of expertise among alums. I want to see that expertise deployed for substantive input into what this university needs to be. You have to set high standards. Secondly, alumni are the biggest bully pulpit of all. Now, a president can say, you know, we really need this, or we really need that. Alumni voice is magnified many times greater. So if you say to the system or to the Board of Regents, you're not doing enough for Prairie View, that's a different thing. So you need to be advocates for the university everywhere you are, everywhere. So, I'll give you an example. I don't know if you read about the deal that has just been made for Los Alamos to come to A&M. Did you read about that? Yeah. Do you realize what a big deal that is? How do you think it got arranged? Alumni. Alumni. So, whomever you know, you have to be out there advocating all the time. So here's what I used to say to Brown alums. They'd say, oh, Ruth, what do you want us to do? I would say, what I want you to do is when you wake up in the morning, so that's what I'd say to you. When you wake up in the morning, I want you to think about Prairie View. And have Prairie View on your mind and on your heart. And when you go about your day, talk to people about Prairie View. Let them know you're from Prairie View. Let them know you care about the university, because the the incredible reservoir of care that alums have for Prairie View, everybody knows about that. They may not know about Prairie View 100%, but they know, wow, those alums of Prairie View care about Prairie View. They are passionate about Prairie View. That is a powerful without money. Okay? In whatever form that is. You want to give us your car, we'll take that. If you want to give us your house, we'll take that. I think I've told the story. I'm trying to get my brother to give his house to Prairie View. Sad. I haven't made any headway, but I'm after that. Okay? He has to put Prairie View in his will. I don't care if it's $10,000 that comes to Prairie View. He needs to put Prairie View in his will. And I will have Prairie View in my will. Okay? So we need to think about planned giving. We need to think about the annual fund. Let me say a word about the annual fund. Carmen, why am I up here doing your job? But let me say a word about the annual fund. It's just, but that's about trust, okay? So every year I write checks to the places that I care about most for the annual fund. And I trust them to use that money in whatever way it needs to be used. I don't try to tie their hands with it by saying you have to do this and you have to do that, and by the way, I want this and I want that. No. The annual fund, you give money and you say use it where it needs to be used most. So our annual fund is a pittance right now. Do you understand that Notre Dame, for example, has an annual fund in the tens of millions of dollars? I think they have the biggest annual fund in the country. Okay? It's not unusual for universities to have annual funds that are $20, $30 million a year. So our annual fund is less than $1 million. We have to build the annual fund because it's unrestricted dollars. We get to use it right away. Okay, so everybody in this room needs to do whatever needs to be done, okay? We will win your trust, believe me, so that you're not concerned about what we're doing with the money. But you need to just do that on a regular basis. And when we build that up with all the alums we have, we're gonna have quite a bit of money to give to our students for financial aid. So that's the most important thing. The second thing is, of course, planned giving as well as endowment. We got to build that up. So whatever your Oscar is, and when he knows that you are expert in this area, every time we have something that we're trying to do, he's going to say, oh, that person will be perfect for that. That's why he has the senior role that he has, because we need you. We need you identified for these tasks. And the final thing, of course, I've made no bones about the fact that, you know, I want to get back to retirement at some point. So, for the most incredible president coming, we're getting it ready. We're building that person a house. We're going to have a profile. We have a national profile now that is fantastic. People are talking about Prairie View everywhere, okay? So when it is time for you to have a president, and I hope it will be a Prairie View alum, you're going to be able to attract the best president in the country, okay? If we do our job right. But if that person is coming in and they say, how much is the annual fund? And we say, well, it's like, you know, $1 million. They're going to say, oh, well, no, I'm going to take this other job. Okay? So let's get ready for the future. And that future, I'm convinced, is going to be fantastic. Let's get the faculty right. Let's right-size the faculty. Let's solve some of the problems with our programs. Let's get all these buildings in place. When you do that, you will have nothing to worry about. People will be fighting to come to Prairie View. They already are, but I mean, they will be fighting to come to join this university. So I promised Emma I would bring her up because she has something for you. Dude. No.
Contract extension in your hand, all right.
Good morning. Good morning. 76, founded for all of the wrong reasons, to today as one of Texas' 3 institutions of the first class. Only God. I want to thank you guys for the support you have given to your alma mater, nurturing mother, so that means over the years. I want to thank you for the support you've given to me. And when I listen to our new president, I don't call her Ruth, I call her Dr. RJS. I find ways around that, you know. Grand design, Faulkner, the grand design, that this day would come. I can't tell you how full I am that I have lived to see us come to this place. And I hope you are, I see in your faces that you're ready and willing to take the mantle and to really, move us to the next level. And I sat there, I thought to myself, all the glue and all the tape and all the hemming up and doing this over the years, but what we had to do to get here, it was worth it. It was worth it. Prairie View University has been accredited. It was approved first in 1934. And Dr. Woolfolk writes how they had a celebration. They had food on the grounds. They had the band out. It was a big deal because that was a signal to the world that this institution was a quality place. Well, we never had a monitor or any sanctions, it's decennial reaffirmation accreditations. And you do know that starting few years ago, they said, well, 10 years is too long. You can have 10 presidents, 15 provosts, all kinds of stuff. You can go from being wonderful to just being terrible. So we need to do something. Office of Education told all the accreditors. So we have the 5th report. Our first 5th year report was done and submitted in 2016, March. We're perfect. We're good. Strategic planning, you must do that. I thank you. Mr. Carl Young, are you in here? Under your leadership? I don't think you missed a meeting. You were on the Zoom or you were wherever with my team, with my posse as I call it. We published our strategic plan in 2016, August. And I listened to President RJS. I sat there and I thought, Roy, Ms. Kennedy, all that stuff that we said we're gonna do, it looks like we're on a roll. We're on a roll. So I stood really just to tell you that it's that time again. I said to the leadership of the reaffirmation accreditation process, our interim provost, Dr. James Palmer, and the director of accreditation and assessment, a new young man by the name of Dr. Ryan Beard, that this holders. So today we brought you 2 items. One is just a quick look at where we are, what we have to get done. We know we have to get done pretty fast because our team comes in 2020 in March. Consult and help because I've had the privilege of being involved for about 40 years in this process, so I know what we can do. But we are preparing now our what we call the compliance certification. Regional accreditation is voluntary. Well, it's voluntary, but if you don't do well in it, you lose your federal financial aid. I don't know how voluntary that is.